All right, all right, all right. Hi there, and welcome to Inside the Wooniverse, a podcast brought to you from the corner of Fringe and Maine. I am your host, Colette Baron-Reid, and joining us today is the most fascinating guest, Corin Grillo. Now, Corin is a Chicana and Puerto Rican mother, licensed psychotherapist, inspirational speaker, spiritual instigator. That's my favorite term for her, and number one best-selling author of the book The Angel Experiment. And you haven't read it yet, you got to go get it. She is the proprietor of the Casa Condor Retreat Center in Mount Shasta, California, and her latest book, which I am finding fascinating, Angel Wealth Magic: Simple Steps to Hire the Divine and Unlock Your Miraculous Financial Flow. So good. She speaks to anybody looking for creative solutions to grow their bank account, business, or the dream home or family they wish. Welcome to the Wooniverse, Corinne.
It's such a pleasure to be here, Colette. Thanks for inviting me here.
Oh, I'm excited to talk to you. I've been loving your book. It's really great. But listen, here's what I want to do. I love to time travel, and I'd like us to jump on that time travel machine and go back to when you were little. So, when did your relationship with the invisible world begin? Because you have a big relationship with that invisible world right now. When did it start?
Yeah, well, I think I had always been curious, interested. I was reading spiritual books like when I was in junior high, but I'm not one of those people who like, oh, I see dead people, when I was younger. And I had some pretty intense experiences in my early 20s, but some could say that they were all drug induced. Um, but some of them were, honestly, but some of them, you know, were suspiciously probably not drug induced. And it wasn't really until my mid 30s that I had the real connection and encounters where I couldn't deny it. Definitely wasn't a flashback, and it
Uh-huh.
really just started changing my life. Yeah, so
I really relate to you because now we never talked about whether you have a history of addiction or not. I did. So
yeah.
I used to make the same joke like, oh, maybe it was, too much acid I dropped or too many mushrooms that I used to eat like candy or, because there are, these are gateways, obviously, to different dimensional realities and possibilities. But because a drug's involved, we discount it or we say no unless it's in a scenario where it's plant medicine and there's a sacred quality to it. So
Mhm.
I also really hit home with this all in my late 20s, early 30s. It was like, because then there was no drugs, no alcohol. I was sober at that time. And then it really made sense, exactly like you. And then
Yeah.
everything else kind of fell into place. Is that sort of the same thing that you're talking about?
Yes, yes, definitely. I mean, they took a little long to finally validate and show me how real they were, but because I that would have been helpful in my 20s if I could really trust it back then. Would have stayed out of a lot of trouble, but yeah, better late than never. And here we are.
I don't subscribe to that idea. I think that, the trouble we got into at the time, like I totally am like your twin sister. So, but when I think about it, like I wasn't mature enough to understand what the presence was for me. I didn't have that maturity or a real understanding of surrendering to a higher power yet at that point. So I don't discount any of the trouble that I went into, but we don't need to talk about that. But I do understand though that it may have led you to become a psychotherapist. So when did that started unfolding for you as your desire to understand the human psyche?
Uh, yeah, well, I mean, that's just a culmination of a lot of childhood trauma and just struggling through life and mostly having a death wish for most of my life. And then at
Mhm.
a certain point, I think it was when I landed in jail that when I came out of that I said, maybe it's time to make a change. And so I really listened. And I remember even when I was younger, people saying, I love talking to you. And I remember me just being
Right.
in bliss talking to people one on one. And I remember actually
Mhm.
saying to a friend of mine, hey, I would be amazing if you could just get paid to just talk to people. But, I was too young to really, So, yeah, after that big moment in jail, then, that was a real reckoning for me. And I started doing deeper listening about what would be best. And so, yeah, I started going down the psychotherapeutic route, mostly to kind of investigate my own psyche and hopefully to be of service to someone eventually. So that's kind of how that started when I started really truly stepping onto my path. It was just the beginning, but it was a great start.
I love that you're so open about saying that, because I think a lot of people expect us as spiritual teachers or people who write about spirituality, angels or whatever, to, to come to it as if we are somehow divine. And really, we may come from some pretty gritty background. And I would say without the grit, there is no pearl. So I love that you're just being able to flat out said, I landed in jail. And that's when I had my
Yeah.
moment of truth. Me, I could have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to me, like you, I see the grittier moments as some of the most divine.
Yep.
I'm so grateful for all of that. I had some rough edges. I needed to grind them off a little bit. And
Hmm.
yeah, the pearls there it took me a while, but I'm grateful for all of that. And I take serious issue with a lot of the modern spiritual conversations as well. I'm not a huge believer in spiritual bypassing or trying to separate ourselves from our humanity. It's the wrong
Yeah.
direction as far as I'm concerned.
Yep,
Um,
me too.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah. So I got
With you
nothing to
that.
hide. I got nothing to hide at this
And
point.
you wanna know what? I do think that that may have been more that kind of old school, like the whole, love and light. I always go love, light, and shadow, or don't give me the love and light. There is no love and light without the shadow. You got to
You,
have the shadow.
yeah.
And whenever I hear people talk about ascension, I like want to plow them. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like when I'm going to be ascended? I'm like, you're going to listen, you're right here, right now, dealing with this shit,
Yeah,
right? Beep,
exactly.
right? Whatever, right? We
I
have
know.
to deal life on life's terms as well as co-creating reality, etc.
I agree. And it's something that I tell the people that because I train a lot of people in intuition and healing arts and stuff like that now, and I just say it's the opposite direction. Instead of ascend, descend, and then you'll
Yeah,
get closer.
descend.
Yeah.
Right. Like we need to root down, not run away up. And I love that. I really love that. And I do believe that that is our way forward, is to be really considerate. And like, listen, spiritual bypassing is no longer useful to anyone. I don't know how useful it was ever, but it's not at all. So it's not the way forward at all, ever. Um, but I'm curious because I'm in the middle of reading your book actually, and I can hardly put it down. It's so great. So let's talk about angels, because you are a psychotherapist. You have had quite a gritty life. You have great experience. You have phenomenal ethics, values. You know what your core values are. You know all this stuff, and here you have written this book about hiring the divine, which I love, because I totally believe that without the divine as our business partner, there is no business. So, but yours is about angels particularly. So I'm fascinated. So in Angel Wealth Magic, what is Angel Wealth Magic? And then let's actually talk about angels themselves. So tell me about this so my listeners can go run out and get your book since it's so good.
Well, the book itself, Angel Wealth Magic, is essentially it is like approaching a doorway and opening it with the help of angels. And when I say a doorway, it's a doorway to all levels of wealth. Even though this book was specifically written for cashola, the big
Right?
cabbage, but
The big habit.
everything, the big cabbage, everything that I do when it comes to angels is always has the intention of connecting people mostly with angels. To me, that is the biggest wealth that we can experience, is an authentic connection with our divine side and our divine allies. The medicine that's out there for us that a lot of us don't know is there. Which is our
Uh-huh.
invisible posse. So the angel wealth magic is really kind of an answer back to those of us who have struggled in life and have had to do a lot of hard work and are looking
Mhm.
for kind of hacks into the system. And angels have, if they've done one thing for me over the last 13, 14 years, it's helped me to learn how to hack the system, the outer
Right.
system, how to navigate my career, navigate my relationships, navigate how to love more in life and how to
Uh-huh.
love life more, period. So I just think they're the ultimate
Mhm.
hackers, and it's not beyond them to support someone with a financial miracle.
I love this, because isn't it true that the world of conditions is man-made. The systems that are out there that are slowly disintegrating, but we're not going to wait for them to disintegrate. We're going to look for the miracle. We're not waiting like until all of this is taken care of, then we'll be okay. No, we're going to bypass the system. We can bypass. We're not going to spiritually bypass, but we'll bypass the system. We'll figure a way how to get around it. And why not do it through this metaphysical means, right? Why not? Because when you have been trained that you are only available for so much, that your container must remain smaller, that you don't have opportunities, that you've been trained to see it that way, then you're going to have to find some kind of way around that, because that's the whole point. That's the it's like we're all been hypnotized in a certain way to have it a certain way. So you got to go, I'm not going to deal with the system. I'm going to figure a way around it. I love this, the idea of it being a hack. I love this. Okay. Let me ask you about angels alone. Is there a ranking system or hierarchy? And how do you decide which angel to work with and for what? And what is an angel? How about that? In your estimation, what is an angel?
Okay,
I know
so
that's a lot of questions.
that's a lot of questions. Well, angels, if you just want to break it down to its bare essence, the term means messenger. In in Hebrew is malach, I think, and then in Greek it's angelos, and then our English word is angel. So messengers, and messengers exist in a lot of different ways and are different for a lot of people around the world, but they
Mhm.
are in fact a global phenomenon. So I do like to extract the angel thinking away from just the Judeo-Christian thing, and just
Great,
realize that they are cross-cultural and here for all of us. And it doesn't
great.
matter your faith or non-faith. When they came to me, I was not a religious person on any level, and they still came to me. I witnessed a miracle, and I was like, okay, you guys are real. Good to
You got
know.
my attention.
For sure. Time to party. Yeah.
Okay, so I like that you brought up that it wasn't necessarily in the same. Okay, the Judeo-Christian tradition, if you look at the Bible, for example, it has a whole hierarchy of angels and demons too.
Mhm.
So, like, we have this whole list, and it's like very complicated. I don't know who came up with that, but the angel that I connected to was just a big giant thing of light, and I would scare the shit out of me when I saw it for the first time. I was like, "Oh my god, what is that?" Right? So,
Yeah.
but then I felt this presence. So I have had two experiences that are visceral. No one can take it away from me. I know for a fact that that was an angel, but it didn't have the same connection to anything I've read about in the Bible or any of these big giant tomes about angels. So I guess that what you're saying as well is that you kind of distilled it down to something that's accessible to all of us, right? No matter what, whether we understand biblical hierarchies or not.
Exactly. Yes. I don't believe that any of that is mandatory.
Right.
It's just a matter of us staying open, curious, and going on
Right.
discovery. Going on our own personal, unique journey to discover.
I love it. Now, in your book, Angel Wealth Magic, you have a list of angels in your book. I get very excited when I talk about this because I thought it was really fascinating. So you have the list that they're there to help us. But I'm going to ask you this because I always think about the law of reciprocity. What are they asking of us in return? Right? Like we're saying we want to hire them. We want to hire them to hack the system. I'm going to use your language, right? But do they have expectations about the energy exchange with them?
Well, yeah, I actually talk about reciprocity in the book because I think a lot of our religions forget about that part. We do a lot of asking, 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 and not a lot of offering back. But the offering back is a tradition that is ancient and, again, cross cultural. So it's important for us to kind of recognize that and to know how to, when you're working with any spiritual ally, it's wonderful to call on them, but it's even better to build a relationship. And if you want to anchor that
Right.
relationship, creating some level of gift exchange. So in my first book, I just talk about gratitude as an
Right.
offering. But, in this book, I talk about other things like, incense, dancing, singing, celebrating, just giving some love and energy as if you're in relationship. And so what would you do?
Mhm.
What would you do if you're wooing any new companion. You're going to give them attention, give them love, a lot of praise.
Chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah, yeah, chocolate chip. Yeah, those are perfectly fine.
Okay, so in your book, this I want to talk about this a little bit more. So because I agree with you, a lot of people ask, they think that it's a vending machine, that the universe is just a vending machine, but you just put a kind of a quarter in, but you get way more value.
Yeah.
But this is in your book, you talk a little bit more creatively around the law of reciprocity and how important that is. So what would you be your favorite angel and the favorite offering to that angel? Do you have any, do they change according to their names and their job descriptions? Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, most angels have specific kind of jobs in a way, is one way you can look at it, specific specialties. And I don't have one particular favorite. My favorites have changed over the years based on whatever kind of medicine is required du jour, right? So
Sure. Okay.
so it's like you have a menu and then what could really help. So lately I really love Archangel Jophiel because
Ah,
Jophiel is such a powerhouse, such a badass at helping us transition from a dark mindset into something more beautiful. And because there's so
mhm,
much negativity and just weirdness on the planet right now, it's
mhm.
such a just a great step to just see how she can shift things so quickly if you invite her in certain ways and ask her to touch your mind, to bless you, to bless your mind, bless your
Mhm.
heart so that you can lighten up a little bit.
Right. It's almost like a table of elements, right? So each of these, they have a resonance, right? Each one of the angels has a resonance. So it's very interesting that you refer to angel. Is it archangel or an angel?
Our archangel.
Archangel. Okay, I want to talk about the difference between those two. But you said that it was a she. Now, how do you, is that just a she for you? Could it be a he or a they for somebody else?
Yeah.
Or is that the specific gender of this particular angel?
Yeah. So when it comes to spirit, it's a fluid field. It's a very
Right.
fluid field. And so I experience Jophiel as a feminine energy.
Right.
So
Okay, good.
I
Yeah.
can, but even when I'm training people, I say leave it open because
Right.
if they take on a form, it's probably for our just so we can connect it with certain things. But light is light, so
Right.
light
It's
doesn't
light.
necessarily have a specific gender. I've heard of people seeing Archangel Michael, who's kind of known as the big heavy, the big warrior, show up as a female too. So
Right.
I found spirit to be very gender fluid.
Right. Fluid. Exactly. Exactly. That's why I wanted to be curious about that. That's really cool. So angels versus archangels. Tell me the difference.
Okay, so how spirit showed me was that as opposed to thinking of it as hierarchical, you can
Okay,
think of
good.
it as because even archangels, they're just extensions of our creator. Just think of it as a giant sun with big rays. So the big
Uh-huh.
rays you could consider being the angels and the frequencies of light that extend from the big ray. Within that ray are smaller aspects, and so they're all connected. The angels and archangels, they're one being. And I saw actually Archangel Michael come down from the sun as a ray of light, and
Mhm.
he it was like this robe that opens and there's all these millions of little angels inside of this robe. So it's all part of I like to just see it as all part of one being as it fragments itself down into the material plane.
Ah,
So creator then fragments itself as it moves through the worlds, moves through the third plane, and by the time they get here, it's a lot of different little beams of light, but with the same divine will.
so would they like be little messengers?
Little cute little messengers. Yeah.
It's like Amazon's drones, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's pretty much how what I saw. Yeah.
Wild. I love it. So, you mentioned something in your book called the four magical basics. So
Mhm.
what we've established here is that we know that angels are part of an energetic, well, they are actually part of the creator. They're offshoots of the creator. And then
Mhm.
it's like fragmented, all there, really all in love, but all in having, each one having a different kind of a signature,
Mhm.
like the table of elements, right? So there's going to
Mhm.
feel a little different. They have different jobs. So, but in your book, you talk about the four magical basics period. So in order for angel wealth magic to work, let's dive into that now. We know who the angels are, right? Now we want to know,
Yeah.
okay, what's the four basics?
Yeah. So for me, it's important to, because I don't want to write books that exclude people who aren't believers.
Right.
So I because I want people to just give it a shot like a scientist. Just try it, see if it works.
Yep.
So I always just say just keep an open mind. You can be totally skeptical. But as long as there's this slight opening, well, I mean, if it proves it, fine. Then there's an opening there. It's not a requirement that we actually believe in angels for angels to start working for you. Um, because
Mhm.
angels believe in us. All we need
Right.
is to create a vehicle and a request for them to show us if they're real or not. So an open mind, childlike curiosity is also wonderful.
Yep.
That's our natural state, and when we open up and kind of let ourselves have the childlike curiosity, we can kind of go back to those earlier years when we were younger and when a butterfly was the most magical thing we'd ever
Mhm.
seen. So that gives you the almost the spirit vision, because when the wind starts blowing on command, when you ask the angels a question, you'll be able to notice like, whoa, that seemed like a direct response to something
Right.
I just said, or the
Yeah.
bird starts swooping on you right when you're asking about your mother that had crossed over. You're going to start noticing
Yeah.
those things more and more. And angels communicate often initially through synchronicities because we haven't honed our skills to actually receive full-blown messages yet. So they'll
Mhm.
manifest in the physical world for us at the beginning, just to kind of show us, hey, we're here, we're paying attention.
Right.
Commitment is also, one of the ones that's important. A lot of times we start something and we don't finish. So if you're going to invite angels into your life, do the process. It's actually why I do books like the ones I do, to get, at the end of this one, there's an 11-day ritual so that you can,
Right.
there's an actual process,
Mhm.
something to do every day, because it's easy, a new habit, it takes a while to form. So staying committed through whatever process that we start,
Mhm.
committed to the final end.
I love that you have an 11-day process too, because that is that sense of a ritual so that we are inviting the sacred in, even though that, I always believe that angels are an interdimensional, or, they're not like from up in the sky. They are here beside us, that, the invisible realms, the hidden realms are hidden because we can't perceive it with our five senses. Doesn't mean they're not there. And like you said, we actually don't live in a culture where with a system in place where that's natural for us. And I'm sure that, that's something that we definitely need more of. And that's why I thought your book was so interesting. So I want to talk about wealth creation, because this is what this specific book was about money, like the cabbage. Like you said, how do you hack the system that doesn't give you an opportunity, or that may appear to prevent you from having opportunity, or have all these roadblocks and obstacles, etc. How do we, as you said earlier, hack it and fly over the obstacles to discover and allow for these beautiful miracles to occur? So tell me about what signs we should be looking out, and what are the different angels and allies that work specifically with wealth creation?
Yeah, well, I give a whole list, like a whole encyclopedia of that. And the thing is that when I chose the angels, people might be shocked when they look at it. Not every single one is connected with with actual wealth. Some of them are connected
Right.
to confidence or de-shaming, like. The Huya is one most people don't know about, but can help you with leadership in general. And so
Hmm.
sometimes we have a hard enough time leading our own lives. So,
Right.
how are we to lead ourselves out of any condition that we need? So, you might need a leadership angel in there somewhere to help you.
Because you ultimately have to become the person that has this thing that you say you want. Right? And you just
Exactly.
can't go from X, I'm this, with all these beliefs and conditions that are basically saying this isn't gonna work, and then we ask for help, and then we have to actually grow the container in some way, or at least make space. Right?
Exactly.
And so this to me is what you're saying. Is this correct?
Yes, yes. Yes. I
Mhm.
mean, and there's so many layers to it, because when I have been coaching people on just, financial matters and things like this, and doing it as a psychotherapist and an intuitive and an entrepreneur, it's never about the money.
Right.
It's about the insides. It's always about the inside. So I spend
Okay.
a lot of time with practices in the book with specific angels to help with, oh, you feel ashamed to ask for more. Okay, let's get you an angel
Right.
that helps resolve shame. I went on a journey myself with this because a lot of these angels I didn't know about. I did a lot of research to help create a ritual for myself
Uh-huh.
during COVID to help,
Oh, right.
yeah,
Okay. I really wanted us to get to that place where you were talking about the inside job because really it is essence before form. That's the point.
it
You
really
know, we
is.
think we chase things in life that we say we want. Money being the most obvious thing is that, oh, we think it's the money, but it's not. It's what the money represents. It's our history with it. It's our belief system around it. It's what we make it mean outside of the
Exactly.
value placed upon it by society. It's how can we make more space for more of what we say we want? Because
So
as you
true.
know, there are so many different currencies besides money, but it is the book that you're saying, right? It is Angel Wealth Magic. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and and we keep ourselves kind of held back in certain ways for really
Mhm.
interesting reasons. Some people hold ourselves back because we're afraid if we break our financial ceiling and rise
Mhm.
above our friends or our family,
Oh.
what kind of hate might we get? And these are
Mhm.
unconscious things that are blocking us from those exact kind of things. So I actually put an angel or two in there about some angels that can block the haters
Oh, I love that.
just in case.
We need to park them on our social media channels. Okay, so let's talk about the wealth blocker because there's something called a wealth demon and a wealth blocker that you wrote about in your book. So tell me about the wealth blocker. Now we know that there's a hate blocker. Yay. What is a wealth blocker?
The analogy that I use throughout the book is imagine that you're planting a wealth garden and that, sometimes there's weeds in the garden. You don't know where they came from, but they're just there. Wealth
Mhm.
blockers are the weeds in your
Right,
unconscious mind that constrict the fertility of your garden. And
right,
um, so identifying those weeds and understanding where did I get this belief from? Where did I
right.
get this from? Where did I get this from? So that you can pull the weeds so that when you're actually doing a financial attraction work, the seeds are more likely to take and grow.
Right. So this is a little bit ancestral work too, really.
Yeah,
When you right? I mean, when
for
you think of
real.
it, because a lot of us inherit these ideas and then they're enforced by the social norms or whatever, depending on where we live, et cetera. So yeah, it's complicated, but I love that. It's that you're able to do that. Okay. One of my favorite parts was when you talked about wealth demons. Can you give us some examples of wealth demons?
Yes, and I loved writing that in the book because I know people are probably thinking I'm going to talk about Beelzebub or whatever. But what I found, again, with working with folks for years, is that the biggest demons that they carry towards wealth are happening on the inside. And
Mhm.
the demon that I think is the biggest one that I found is the Lord Satan of all the wealth demons.
Okay.
Is shame. Shame
Shame.
stops us.
Yep.
Shame stops us. That's why we don't want to get more successful than our friends or our family members,
Yep.
or we have some people, gosh, so many people have a hard time raising their prices when they have businesses, all the guilt, all the
Yep.
shame. So that
Yep.
that really
Fear.
blocks us right there. Fear, all of that.
Mhm.
So there's that. There's self-sabotage is another one. A lot of us, kind of just when we're about to have success, sink back
Yep.
into an addiction, sink back into something just so we can punch
Mhm.
ourselves in the head a little bit and prove to ourselves that we don't deserve the next level. So I talk about a lot of those um, emotions that sneak up on you and you think they're real, but you just have to be able to see them for what they are. They're just I consider them more like initiators. They're there like gatekeepers to see if you really are. Can you master this challenge? Can you slay this particular dragon? And if you can, there's a great reward on the other side.
Right. Again, so back to, let's say, one of the angels that you would call upon. Let's actually go through what you would do. And maybe, I don't know if you have a good client story or even a story for yourself about overcoming these things. 'Cause I like what you said about the idea that we would bump up against our own sense of refusal or self sabotage rather than experience what it could be like to move beyond our limitations, because we're too afraid of the consequences of, losing our friends and family or having jealousy, et cetera, because it's a big hairball with all this whole conversation, right? I mean, it is.
It really can
So
be, yeah.
walk us through. You've got a client, they're really struggling with that very thing. They can't pass that ceiling. How do you help them, or that membrane? What angel do you call upon, and what do we do?
Yeah, it really just depends. We usually we try and get down to what it is that's really causing, because a lot of times what they're saying on the surface is not the real problem.
Right.
Um, so if, sometimes it's just direct healing work or asking Archangel Michael. A lot of Archangel Michael comes into play quite a lot, because a lot of times we have these toxic cords attached to our
Mhm.
family or our partner or whatever. Because maybe, let's say, your partner is the breadwinner, and
Right.
what happens if you triple your income? Are you going to emasculate, in theory, right? So you have to,
Yeah.
like, know what those things are and really go on discovery, which is why I do so much process work in the book itself, to help you
Yeah.
kind of dig under the hood a little bit. So if we find it's something like that, then hey, Archangel Michael, at least cut the cords of toxicity between,
Mhm.
your concept of what might happen and what actually is. And so when you can get someone anchored in themselves, that's fine. If it's something like there really are, there's like deep worry, an angel like Nehemiah would be helpful if they're really worried about financial matters or whatever. It's like, well, let's see if we can quell some of this with this angel. So let's work with this angel, and we just do a little quantum invocation or some kind of invocation. And I talk about invocations in the book and how powerful they are. I give simple ways to kind of do that, but these frequencies are super powerful. And so but we don't know that until we actually do it, try it like a scientist, and see what happens. People
Mhm.
often get results and relief within a minute or two. They just
Wow.
feel the energy disperse and dismiss right away. You call in Archangel Michael, you cut a cord, all of a sudden the person is so neutral about things.
Mhm.
It just works so quickly.
And you're talking about the invocation.
Yeah, doing invocations or really doing any kind of angel work, especially if you're really focusing on something specific. If you notice that you have one of these demons popping up,
Mhm.
the angels can really resolve a lot of our emotional and mental disease around any issue. And it's that emotional and mental disease around any issue that usually is the roadblock. It's not the situation
Right.
itself. I mean, because I also, like, am a marriage and family therapist, and when we work with angels around creating peace or harmony around a relationship, it is amazing what can happen so quickly, and it's just an energetic half the time. It's not even
Mhm.
like a real personal thing. It's just maybe some resentment that's built up over time that just needs some release.
Right, right, right. So this is really like working with personified energies that you can apply. We just call them something. I think it's like that. It's like that there's a narrative, and because we are naming beings, we have to put names on everything. That you've named something, but it's actually palpable living energy that can make a big difference.
Exactly.
So what about um tell me about the power of forgiveness to release past financial blocks.
Yeah, I think, a lot of folks, we've had setbacks in life, and
Mhm,
a lot of times, because we're carrying such a low end, carrying resentment or carrying poison in our hearts or carrying the disappointment of it, that it's hard for us to take a next level and liberate ourselves or free ourselves up, because
mhm.
there's still that, like, crusty anchor that we're kind of yanking around. It's all rusted and old,
Uh-huh.
but we don't know how to let it go. So sometimes we have to forgive bad situations that we've had in the past, or even forgive our families for how we were raised around really any situation, but specifically financial. Um, uh, but a lot of it is forgiving yourself around some of the choices that we've made along the way that may have not been the greatest choices, or they didn't work out. the way we hoped.
When we look at entrepreneurship, because you're an entrepreneur as well, and a lot of what I hear in my workshops, et cetera, is people struggle with imposter syndrome, and feelings of inadequacy. Tell me which angel you would call on to help a person with that.
Yeah, well, with that one, I would probably call on all the angels. Call on
Okay.
all of it.
All of them, because you're booming up.
Yeah, calling all of them. I mean, you'd look at the at least in the book, you could look at the index. I mean, I give specific ones, like maybe a list of them, but look at the ones that really resonate with you, because I give certain formulas, but I also feel like it is so important for you to look at the encyclopedia and really feel a resonance with some of these angels along the way. And so with any one issue, period, it could be different angels altogether, even the ones that I list in the group, or in the book itself. Because sometimes, like if I look at Archangel Michael, he's not officially someone that's going to help you, um, with whatever it is that you're looking at with imposter syndrome. But Archangel Michael is a great start. I didn't talk a lot about archangels in this particular book, but with imposter syndrome, what Archangel Michael can do is dissolve negativity, dissolve fear-based
Mhm.
energy, and dissolve pretty much any aspects of the false self. So a great starter angel for everybody who, that you can remember is like Archangel Michael. You got the worry, Archangel Michael. You got the fear, Archangel Michael. You got the hate, you got the hating on yourself, Archangel Michael.
So are you surrendering these things to the angel? Is that how it works? Tell me about the exchange. Like, are you offering these emotions to be cleared to the angel? Say, like, I'm struggling with this. I'm offering these to you, as an energy to clear it. I can't do it. You can, so I have to let you. How does that relationship work?
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, is an offering. Um, and sometimes, like with Archangel Michael, it's not just offering, it's also a shifting, it's a transforming. So
Right.
angels are like alchemists. They can transmute dark energy into power and things like
Mhm.
that. So yeah, you can offer whatever it is. If you have a weight on your shoulders, you're carrying too much responsibility, too many people, Archangel Michael's a wonderful, wonderful ally in that way.
What are some of the common mistakes people make? So they get your book, Angel Wealth Magic, and they've come in and they've been trying to manifest abundance, but they've been not doing it right somehow. Now, that said, I always question that because I think you might be trying to blame yourself for something you have no power over. But let's see what you say. So, what are some of the common mistakes that you see people talk about in your practice, and then how do you help them with those?
Yeah, I think even your example, yeah, is the perfect example. It's they're taking it too seriously, and they're
Mhm,
thinking there's a right or wrong way. And there's no right
mhm.
or wrong way to engage spirit. And again, like someone who's coming in, I think that, yeah, the mistake that people make is that they're so serious. Like, have
Right.
fun,
Mhm.
elevate the whole thing, like come at it like you're starting a party. And
Right.
that the angels are here to party with you. Again, childlike curiosity, openness, those kinds of things are really the soup du jour. You know,
Right.
yeah.
Tell me some of your favorite stories, like when you had either or even your client, when you've had an actual experience with an angel that viscerally changed your life, for sure that's what it was. Tell me a little bit more detail on that.
Well, I could talk about the first miracle if we want. That's when I was in a very dark period, and that is the game changer. Very dark period, not practicing any kind of spirituality or religion. Um, and I someone
What was
bought me.
happening to you at that time?
I was drinking about a fifth of tequila every couple days. I was burning the candle at both ends. I had a 3-year-old at home. My relationship, we were on the brink of divorce. My house was going into foreclosure, and I was working with inner city kids, trying to triage them, save them off the street as a therapist. So I would go into
Oh
these
my
homes,
god.
go into these neighborhoods. I mean, like I said, burning the candle at both ends, and I was fueled at the end of the day with alcohol. And it was rough. I remember driving and just thinking, I would like to, I'm hoping that soon I could just wake up in the hospital or not wake up at all. So that's how bad it was. So a friend of mine, she didn't know because I never shared with anybody how bad I actually was. And she bought me an angel reading. At the end of the reading, the lady said, "You have a lot of angels with you. Talk to them as if you're real, as if they're real, and they'll show you how real they are." And they did. And a few
So
days
tell me,
later,
how did they do?
yeah.
How
So
did they?
it started with synchronicities. It always starts with all the people that I serve. They always go, "Oh my gosh, I can't even, I see angels everywhere now." It's like, so it started with seeing angel wings, angels, billboards, all this stuff, license plates, hearing songs on the radio. Um, so that was a couple of days. And then on day 3, I was driving through the hood in LA, going to a client's house. A bird dropped directly from the sky, landed in front of my car, and I was
Oh, wow.
like, what the heck? So I drive around it. It has a broken wing. And I look at the bird and I was stunned because it was kind of gruesome. And I was like, "Angels, what the heck? I've been talking to you for a couple days. This is how you repay me." And I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to get out of the car, in the hood. And so I decided to ask the angels to take it out of its suffering. And
Mhm.
so I did a little prayer, probably the first prayer I've ever done on behalf of somebody else, and uh, drove around the car, kept praying for the bird, looked at the bird, and as I watched, I saw the bird start shaking a little bit on the ground. So I hit the brakes, kept looking, and I saw this bird that was about pigeon size. From the body
Right.
of this bird, a small bird jumped up from the body of the bird, flew away, then another
Oh, wow.
one, and then another one. So it transformed into 3 healthy birds, flew away. And so then
Oh,
I decided to get out of the damn car. So I got out of the car, and there was nothing left on the ground. Yeah, I
wow.
know.
Okay, now that is a story. That would have changed my life for sure. I
It
mean,
did.
right? You needed a billboard. You needed something very big to
I
get your attention.
I needed something that didn't seem like coincidence.
Right.
Eh, eh,
Something that you couldn't make up, something that you couldn't even possibly
yeah.
hallucinate.
And to be
That's
honest, it was not that moment that was the most miraculous. It's what happened after that moment. It was the change of my heart, the lightness that I felt, like, it had been years that I felt buoyant in life or happy. It was the fact that I could hear a different voice inside of me that was not tyrannical, that was not tearing me down.
right.
And then it slowly kind of guided me out of this prison world that I was in, this emotional mental prison that I was in. And so that started all of this. Yeah, at first I
Wow.
tried to pretend like that didn't happen because, again, psychotherapist, grounded person, and so I didn't even talk about it for a while. Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. Any of your clients have an outrageous story like that too, there where they could not absolutely deny that these were angels that you know of?
Yes, these clients happen all over the world. Yes, I get emails all the time from people saying, "You'll never believe I opened up your book." And I just talked to a group in Atlanta, and she's like, "I'm only on page 32 of the book, and I manifested $5,000 out of nowhere, and I haven't even started the ritual yet." But that's just the financial stuff. It's the heart transformations that are just
Mhm.
mind blowing. But yes, people have actually been have had extremely miraculous. They have photos, they have pictures. I mean, I get so much data from people, but the sky, there's no limit to what is possible, to the miracles that happen, and that's why I do the work that I do. And
Mhm.
especially now, I'm more passionate than ever in this post COVID world. We need to know that we have serious medicine around us, and that if we just let ourselves drink it just a little bit,
Mm.
physical health conditions can disappear. I've just seen all of the kinds of miracles, and I keep doing this work to keep reminding me so that I don't go back
Mhm.
to sleep either. And it's just this whole miracle fest, all the time. But the good news is here for all of us.
Oh, I love that. So, a person reads your book, Angel Wealth Magic. They have a business. They're an entrepreneur, maybe, right? So then, what would you say? So we know that there's the inside job there. That's very clear. But I'm curious. So here's this woman, 32 pages. She manifested something. So, what would you say to an entrepreneur that wants a more spiritual approach to their business, and they've got Angel Wealth Magic? So, would it be an angel of their choice, or what would be the first step for them? Would it be the 11 day ritual, what would you tell them?
I just say, like, read the book, because it's like step by step, make the choice to take the next level. But what they're telling me to tell your people now about this is that the first thing that they should do is to really think about that their business is not their business, that their business is an extension of a higher power. And
Okay.
so when you think of the business and you realize it's a higher power trying to move through you to create a beautiful service for the planet, this gives you already access to higher inspirations, to better
Amen.
marketing strategies. Because
Yeah.
when you let spirit guide, like for me, my best successes when it comes to my offerings have always come from listening to my guidance about the marketing and about my offering, as opposed to if I happen to be working with a business coach. And that's happened
Right.
over and over again. Yeah.
I love that. I know I teach a class called The Spirit of Your Business, which is all about that. So I love that you said that. So let's pull a card together and see if there's anything else the Wooniverse wants us to talk about or the angels want us to talk about. Let's see.
I love
So I'm
it.
going to pull the card. It's from my new deck, the Dreamweaver's Oracle, and I'm going to pull it and I'm going to have you give me your take on it.
Okay, great.
Because we're gonna ask your angels, there are angels, right? The angels with a capital T, with a capital A. Like, let's see, what do we need to talk about right now to close up our fantastic conversation? Okay, show me, show me, show me, show me. Oh, this is so interesting. It's if the wild ones come with sticks. So I'll just quickly tell you what the card means.
Okay.
If the wild ones come with sticks, like here it is here.
Oh, cool.
It's about negative self-talk and criticism. So, right. So what would we say? Because I do think this is a comment on our culture, certainly on the internet culture, social media culture.
Mhm.
People don't want to support each other like that. There's like this almost a hypnotism of rage and craziness. So what would you say about that? Like if we start talking to ourselves poorly or we start listening to other people's opinions?
Um, what I want to say about this is, at least what Spirit is showing me now, is that we have to understand that, first of all, to not have shame about the fact that we do that to ourselves, because we were indoctrinated to do this to ourselves.
Right.
We were indoctrinated to judge ourselves and to judge each other. We were taught that in a way is like how God works, and
Right.
so they want you to, when we catch ourselves, and they're all actually showing as if it's daggers pointing at ourselves. And what
Mhm.
they're doing for your audience is pulling these daggers out and taking the sword and pointing it towards their path of beauty. And they're saying, if there's any fierceness that you're going to
Right.
conduct, as opposed to creating disharmony in yourself or disharmony with other people, use the sword to be your guiding light, to cut through the crap, right? Just to cut through the bullshit, to get yourself to get
Yeah.
yourself to the dream, to the vision.
Mhm.
But they're actually showing me you could just take that, just pull. If you have that voice in there, that's not your voice, that was kind of
Right.
implanted in you, and to pull it out and direct it, tell it what to do, as opposed to what it's been doing.
I love that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for visiting us today in the Inside the Wooniverse. To learn more about Corinne, her books, courses, and other fantastic offerings, head on over to CorinneGrillo.com. And as always, you can find a transcript of this episode, quotes, all the links, and so much more on the show notes page. So go to itwpodcast.com or click the link in this episode's description. This was so much fun. Thank you so much for joining us, Corinne.
Ah, thank you so much, Colette, for having me. Such an honor to be here with you.
It was so great. Thank you.